Shopping is hard.
I can never find anything in my size.
I don't even know my size.
I buy my clothes the same place I buy my groceries.
There's a better way. Make it easy with Stitch Fix. Just share your size, style, budget, and done. Your personal stylist sends pieces picked just for you.
That was easy.
Stitch Fix. Online personal styling for everyone. Free shipping and returns. No subscription required. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
It's the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back, folks. This is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC. If you're listening to us on the radio, don't touch that dial. If you're out of town, you can always listen to us at WABCradio.com, where we are live streaming worldwide in 173 countries. Right now, we are privileged to have the preeminent Democrat campaign strategist in the country, Dr. Hank Sheinkopf, who is, in my view, one of the most learned, wise men in the Democrat Party, who has a deep understanding of American politics, deep understanding of his party. Hank Sheinkopf has actually been involved in over 700 political campaigns, a disproportionate number of them being extraordinarily successful. Worked on 4 continents in 14 foreign countries and 44 of these American United States. He was an absolute key player in the re-election of President Bill Clinton, the election of New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, as well as a former president of the Dominican Republic and a former president of Mexico. He is someone with a unique view, and he always gives you to it straight. There's not a partisan tinge in his analysis. He's a truth teller. It is a huge honor to have Hank Sheinkopf join us now on the Roger Stone Show. Hank, welcome.
Roger, if I could live up to half of what you said, I'd be a lucky man, but it's a pleasure to be with you.
Folks, listen, Democrat Party leaders, union leaders, and important opinion makers in the Democrat Party listen to Hank Sheinkopf, who's just a shrewd analyst. That's why I wanted to get him today. So, Hank, this is it's the most tumultuous time I can remember. I can't help but be reminded of the 1968 election, the many parallels here that I see. The specter of assassination hung over that presidential contest because of the horrific murder of not only Dr. Martin Luther King, but Senator Robert F. Kennedy of New York on the night he won the California primary. With all due respect to RFK, he really does edit history a little bit when he said his father was leading. Despite that big victory in California, I would argue that Mayor Richard Daley, who'd been so integral to the rise of John F. Kennedy, was going to stick with Lyndon Johnson and Vice President Hubert Humphrey because of Daley's support for the war. And in the end, this is all opinion. Of course, I don't think Kennedy would have ultimately been nominated, but unfortunately, an assassin's bullet ensured that we never found out. So we have this sequence of events here where, like 1968, sitting president Joe Biden has, because of his unpopularity and doubts about his ability to win, stepped down, as LBJ did. We have a Democrat Party deeply split by a foreign war. Those days it was Vietnam. Today it is the struggle between Israel and Iran. Let's see who this really is. One in which, yes, I'm sorry, I line up with Israel. It is also true that Trump is staging what could be the greatest single political comeback since Richard Nixon. Trump and Nixon both having lost a presidential candidate, although Trump disputes that the second time, but both of them coming powerfully back to seize their party. So, and now, of course, Joe Biden's drop and the rapid rise of Kamala Harris, a candidate, well, in truth, no Democrat primary voter voted for. On this program, you said one of the smartest things I've ever heard, that the Democrats didn't understand the toxic mix of open borders, of an anti-job regulation and high taxes. It didn't understand their working class base, and that they would ultimately likely be punished for it. So much has happened since then. Let me shut up and let you talk, Hank. What's going on here in America today?
Well, look, we have a country that is going through a very, very, very tumultuous demographic and economic shift. The Democratic Party is not the Democratic Party that you helped to take apart, frankly, Roger, in the early part of your career, setting the scene for the moving of white blue-collar Catholics away from the Al Smith coalition into the Republican Party as voting participants, not necessarily as registrants, which is a pretty extraordinary thing. But the Democrat Party is in very serious trouble. It no longer has a coherent ideology, but rather is a collection of clans who come together only on specific occasions. And the Republicans have a much more cogent, bordered, frankly, because it's a geographical context to this, and a shared set of values that revolve around, frankly, one candidate right now. Not so bad. They're in a better position to win, but right now they're not going to win. But it's a long time between here and Election Day, and that's kind of the moment. That's at the moment.
Yeah, as I see some of the early polling emerge, it is my view that you can't poll in the eye of a storm. It's almost impossible to get an accurate view of what the voters really think. Things are moving so quickly here that opinions are shifting. Events like the attempted assassination of Trump, or like Joe Biden being, I think, forced from the race, those have an impact on voters, but you can't poll, in the immediate aftermath before things settle down. We're seeing something here that we've never seen before. I have to say it, the party that's been whining constantly about democracy and Donald Trump being a threat to democracy is the party that tried to keep Trump off the ballot, that Trump tried to use the criminal justice system to throw him in jail, tried even today to censor ideas and thoughts that they don't agree with, that aren't politically correct on social media and the internet. The same folks whose FBI conducted 278 warrantless searches of American citizens. But it's going to be a while before we see this race. I would argue, Hank, that there are three factors here that are crucial. Kamala Harris's performance on the stump. She has to prove that she's up to this. It's not enough to have this halo created by the media. Whether she can continue to raise money at the clip that she has, and that money can withstand an examination to ensure that it is indeed all legal, and then where she stands in the polls when things settle down.
You're not going to know. Yeah, I'm sorry, Roger. You're not going to know much, and you're right, until after the Democrat convention. If the Democrats had the chaos that occurred in Chicago, that could occur in Chicago as did 1968, will be a very different game, all entirely together. Then the halo effect of Harris as the golden woman at the moment will shift dramatically. There's other things going on here, too. I think that her choice of VP in this case does matter, because it'll be a signal to the Democrats and to the Republicans where she's headed. There are 5 states really in play now. You take Pennsylvania out of the equation. Kelly seems to make a lot of sense, the senator from Arizona, because he's the husband of a woman who was the victim of an attempted assassination, former Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. 1, 2, because he's an American hero. The Democrats need something that gives them positioning as a party of patriotism at a time when we're as close to a world war as we've been probably since the Cuban Missile Crisis. And Americans are not dumb. They really do get a sense of things. They don't vote on foreign policy issues, but they vote against chaos and instability. And the Democrats have to somehow find a way to prove that they're the party of stability, and having a hero, an astronaut, on the ticket would probably be a good thing.
Very, very, very interesting. My sources, which are not nearly as good as yours when it comes to the Democrat Party, but many have suggested that Governor Josh Shapiro could bring the Keystone case state, which is, at least at this point, crucial to the strategy of both parties. It's a must-carry state for both Donald Trump and for Kamala Harris, presuming that she is the nominee. I guess I should ask you, if she does not perform, if her poll numbers are not good, there's nothing legally binding these delegates. They're not bound by party rules. They're not bound by voters in the primary. They're not bound by law, certainly. Are we absolutely certain, in your opinion, that she will, without question, be the Democrat Party nominee?
She will be the nominee for the same reason that she became the nominee. She became the nominee because the Democrats lost their minds when they looked at data, and they saw that they had no shot with Biden at the top of the ticket of holding on to the Senate and or taking back the House. So the decision was made to remove Biden. It was carefully constructed over a period of time, well executed, lots of hits, very few errors, including remaking Kamala Harris and make her ready for the job as a candidate. So she'll be the nominee. They can't afford not to make her the nominee, because if they do that, then the black vote will not perform with the intensity they need to win in states where the blacks matter more than others, including Georgia, as an example, and potentially Pennsylvania, although people look at Pennsylvania politics and they get it wrong. Proportionally, the western part of the state, which is much more conservative, votes with greater intensity proportionally than the eastern part of the state does. And that's very important to note. But I don't think Shapiro's I don't think Shapiro would be the choice. Unless, again, not to be pedant, not to be cruel, but a Jewish fellow and a one-term governor with some previous problems. I think it was a sexual harassment thing. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, Governor of Pennsylvania, but that versus someone who can carry a Catholic who can help in Michigan and Pennsylvania and Wisconsin and Arizona and Nevada. I think that's a clear problem for them, and they need somebody to balance it off. They've got to be very much like the states they need. And I think an astronaut who's a hero and is a Catholic gives them that ability. I don't think Shapiro does.
I am told by my sources that there is that concern, that the idea of a woman of color that will be, of course, contested because her heritage is Indian and Jamaican. She's not an African American, and there's going to be a lot of argument about those communities, and we as Republicans have the stupid idea that everyone who has dark skin thinks alike, and it's just not true. But that is the stupid way Republicans have looked at the communities of color. I think it may be a little too much. First, there is some thought that Shapiro also could, while he might gain the Democrats' Pennsylvania, I think that's arguable. But he could cost them Michigan, where you have a very large, a very active Muslim community that previously has been a mainstay of the Democrat Party. They are already upset about this administration's policy in the Middle East. We're going to see, I think, Chicago 1968 type protests at the convention if they go with a real on-the-ground live convention, as the Republicans did in Milwaukee. I'm not wishing for violence, but I think it's going to happen. Do you think it's fair to say that the candidacy of Governor Shapiro could cost the Democrats Michigan?
I think that's entirely true. It could cost them Michigan. I also believe, frankly, Roger, that if there are violence akin to 68, I mean, you mentioned the 68 setting. If we have that again, it's higher probability the Republicans win the election. Why? Because people, when there is chaos, and that's the Nixon formula, when you have chaos and disorder, the out party tends to win. I mean, it's been consistent throughout American history. You had it, Reagan, 1980, same thing, chaos and disorder, right? Inflation, bad economy, the Iran hostage crisis, sense that things are out of control, that a leadership was required that was able to control things in some fashion. Republicans or the out party tends to win. I mean, there's, again, Clinton to Bush won, right? The economy is out of control. Things are out of control. Jobs are down, and on and on. Guess what? The Democrat win. That's the out party and the party that restores order. It is not, if there is chaos in Chicago, the patina that Vice President Harris has right now will dissipate, unquestionably so. And I think it's a much closer race than people think. I mean, the states that we've talked about that matter are also economically sensitive. The Trump argument about the economy and what the cost is of the gas pump is going to have some value in Arizona, Nevada, Michigan, certainly Wisconsin. I mean, those are real things. So if you have chaos, you have the economy static, regardless of what the facts may be, it's the feeling that people have that matters. it increases the chances that Republicans will win. I also kind of think that the smart move by the Republicans is to do little to damage her right now and to wait till after the convention while things are on a high. If you go after her now, I think it creates a different kind of problems because she's going to have dominance over the television airwaves for the period of time going through the convention. And then things will dissipate depending what the Democrats do and the conditions outside the convention center.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. 3 couples, 4 vacations, a lot to unpack. Watch The 4 Seasons, a new series starring comedy favorites Tina Fey, Steve Carell, Will Forte, Coleman Domingo, and more in a hilarious and heartfelt love letter to long-term relationships. Based on the original Alan Alda film. Watch The 4 Seasons, streaming now only on Netflix.
Halliday presents, in the red corner, the undisputed, undefeated Weed Whacker Guy. Champion of hurling grass and pollen everywhere. And in the blue corner, the challenger, extra strength Halliday. Eye drops that work all day to prevent the release of histamines that cause itchy allergy eyes. And the winner by knockout is Halliday. Halliday, bring it on.
Oh my God, it's the coolest thing ever. Hey guys, have you heard of Goldbelly? Well, check this out. It's this amazing site where they ship the most iconic, famous foods from restaurants across the country, anywhere nationwide. I've never found a more perfect gift than food. They ship Chicago deep dish pizza, New York bagels, Maine lobster rolls, and even Ina Garten's famous cakes. Seriously. So if you're looking for a gift for the food lover in your life, head to goldbelly.com and get 20% off your first order with promo code GIFT.
I agree with all of that. In my opening segment, I pointed out that I think that it is vitally important for Trump and his campaign to have the discipline to keep this campaign focused on issues that impact voters. The cost of food, the cost of gasoline, the cost of available, affordable housing, the safety of their streets and neighborhoods and communities. And that if the campaign degenerates into making fun of Kamala Harris because they say she's stupid or because of her sexual history, I think that would be a huge strategic mistake that would only rally women voters to her side. Correct. Who think she's being unfairly attacked. It would be a disaster. It would make the reproductive rights issue the salient issue more than it already is in many states, and the states that the Republicans need to win and the Democrats need to win. Would not be a wise move. This is about finding something, as Ailes and McCarthy did in that famous independent expenditure called Willie Horton, which people forget about sometimes. There will be one case, guaranteed, where there will be somebody that she ran the second largest prosecutor's office in the country. It's called the California Attorney General's Office. There will be somebody that went on. There will be somebody who was a migrant. There will be somebody that illegal immigrant, something that happened, and God forbid there were cops killed. If that's the case, that's the campaign in the states that she needs and that he needs. Different campaign. All right, folks, you're tuned in to the Roger Stone Show here at 77 WABC Radio. We have the high privilege of speaking to Dr. Hank Sheinkopf, to my mind, the preeminent Democrat strategist in America today. We're honored to have him, so don't go away, and we'll be right back with more of Hank Sheinkopf and The Roger Stone Show.
It's The Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
Welcome back, folks. I'm Roger Stone. This is The Roger Stone Show here at 77 WABC. Without any question, the most powerful and influential AM radio station in America today. We're honored to have with us Hank Sheinkopf, my mind, the preeminent Democrat labor strategist in the country today, a man with deep experience, a man who has elected presidents, elected governors, elected presidents of some foreign nations, a learned and wise man who always tells you the truth when you ask him a question, which is why I was so anxious to get his take on what we have happening. Hank, let me ask you this. There has been some argument that Kamala Harris should select Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as his running mate. That argument goes that the choice of Josh Shapiro will cost them the votes of the traditionally Democrat Muslim community in Michigan, that the appointment of Senator Kelly from Arizona is problematic because of his involvement in a business venture with Chinese communist partners where, yes, believe it or not, they actually make the kind of surveillance balloons that flew unencumbered across our country during the Biden administration. That Walz, who candidly I had to look up to find out who he was, maybe non-controversial. And let's face it, Donald Trump would not have been in Minnesota Saturday if his pollster, Tony Mauricio, did not think that Minnesota was potentially within grasp.
Well, look, he's a great pollster. He happens to know what he's doing. He's very smart, someone I respect a lot. The question becomes, do you need somebody with a name or you need somebody with a location? And real estate, location, location, location. So Walt shows up. He's from Minnesota. He's a Midwesterner. He's in a state that has a significant Muslim population, by the way. People forget that. Does he do what you need done in Michigan, in Wisconsin? He probably does a lot more what you need done in Wisconsin than Michigan. It's a different cultural place, okay? Is he useful in Pennsylvania? And can he help win Western Pennsylvania? Possibly, though that's going to be tough for any Democrat. And Arizona and Nevada. Does he help there? It's going to be about him. I mean, again, Kelly has certain strengths and a weakness that you point out very carefully. Who knows about Waltz? The good news is nobody knows anything. You know, in your experience, in my experience, when you don't know anything about somebody, you get to paint the picture the way you want, right? We can, the Democrats can paint the picture any way they want. They certainly could. So that you don't know a lot about him means he's probably not got a lot of scandal or a lot of things wrong with him. And it might be a good move. I don't know enough about him to cast a judgment, but I do like Kelly for those reasons, and I don't like Kelly for the reason you raised.
Fair enough. Look, it was former President Richard Nixon who told me when you're trying to pick a running mate, don't look for somebody who can help you. There is no one who can help you. Just find someone who doesn't hurt you. At the end of the day, vice presidential candidates have virtually never affected the outcome of the race. There are reports today that I think are baseless that Trump has some kind of seller's remorse or buyer's remorse over the selection of J.D. Vance. But let me ask you, Hank, what do you think of the Vance selection?
I think Vance's selection was a good one. I think Vance has to learn how to orate a little bit better on the stump. And I think that he doesn't understand his role. His role is to do what Trump should not be doing, which is he's Spiro Agnew of 2024, which means he's to be former President Trump's protector on the stump, and he's got to unload appropriately without venom in places where it matters so that Trump is protected from being portrayed as venomous. If Trump is portrayed as being venomous towards her, it could be very, very, very not very good. And I think Vance can get away with it. You know, Trump can always point and say that Vance, I told him not to do that. That's different. But Vance isn't performing his role properly yet. He's got to be trained to do it.
I was encouraged when immediately after Joe Biden announced, or those around him, I should say, announced his very strange withdrawal from the race, which comes not on his official website, but on his official social media platform, but his personal one, in a letter in which the signature doesn't really look the same as all the other signatures of Joe Biden I've seen. And it's, as I said earlier, it says he's not going to endorse a candidate to succeed him, but he immediately endorses Kamala Harris. I thought that Vance did a good job of raising an obvious question on the minds of many Americans, which is if he's not well enough to go through the rigors of a presidential campaign. If he's not mentally and physically fit to do that, how is he mentally and physically fit to continue as our president? I still believe that it is yet possible that he may not finish out the term. I'm not no ill wish for him, but the man doesn't look well, and that would enhance the candidacy of Kamala Harris if she were suddenly a sitting president. In this atmosphere, anything can happen. But I thought Vance was very wise to take the point on that issue, showing that maybe he does understand that he should leave the hardline attacks to others. When Kamala Harris says that American taxpayers should pay for the health care of all of the people who are in this country illegally, that is, I think, an extraordinary issue that Vance and Trump should be pounding. When Kamala Harris tries to walk away from the record of the Biden-Harris administration regarding our southern border, where essentially, even though they tried to deny it, open borders is our policy, and they try to claim that a bipartisan bill that came forward that would have guaranteed that 2 million people could still enter the country illegally automatically under the bill, that was some fix that the Republicans refused to approve for political reasons. I don't think that's going to work, but this all has to remain on the issues for it to be successful. And
Agreed.
if it degenerates into name calling, that's a mistake. Now, Democrats are calling Trump a convicted felon and a criminal and so on, and Republicans are calling Kamala Harris a Marxist who has an extreme ideology. They're going to have to lay that out on a factual basis, not just with name calling. Name calling here is not, in my opinion, going to work.
That's my point. What Vance's job is to do is to create the differences in policy in a way that sticks in people's brains. What Trump's job to do is to be the president in waiting. And by that I mean every time they call him a convicted felon, so what? You always got to say is, look, they can call me whatever they want, but I can tell you when I'm president again, we won't have people crossing the border and using this country, and people will respect us. Because the question on the migrants goes to the coalition that he's assembled. They are blue-collar, white people in many cases, and others who don't want to have chaos in the country, who don't want to see the country taken advantage of because they identify as Americans. If the country's taken advantage of in this way politically, they feel taken advantage of. Trump is the way to remedy that. And that's a good argument. If they go out and start to beat the devil out of Harris, no one will pay attention to what they have to say. That's the difference.
All right, a quick question. We only have a couple minutes, so I apologize. But New York City Mayor Eric Adams, quick to endorse Kamala Harris. Substantial media reports of pending investigations and perhaps even indictment. What are his future political prospects? Does he face a Democrat primary? Does he get that far? What's your view?
Let's see. In the last 70 years, two Democrat mayors who've been elected to serve one term and weren't reelected. One was Abe Beame, the fiscal crisis. Second was David Dinkins. It was Crown Heights riots and crime. Eric Adams is operating a new system with no runoffs, but rather ranked choice voting, which is awful and not a good system in my view. But that being said, will he have a race? The answer is yes. Can he win the race? Ranked choice voting may interfere with his ability to win the race. But indictments and convictions and who knows what else. The FBI has been at this, the U.S. Attorney's been at this for a long time with Adams and the people around him. Time to put up or shut up.
Well, of course, I don't think they will charge him before an election. As, of course, we're told their policy not to do that unless, of course, your name is Donald Trump. All right, I'm afraid we have to leave it there. We are very grateful for Hank Sheinkopf, the preeminent Democrat and labor strategist in the country, joining us today with his unique perspective and a sophisticated analysis of these uncharted political times. Thanks for joining us today on the Roger Stone Show.
Thank you, Roger. Continued health and goodwill. I'll see you.
All right. God bless you. Folks, that was Hank Sheinkopf. Nobody knows more about American politics. Nobody knows more about New York politics than he does. and you're listening to him on the Roger